Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up. It's time to get excited, right?
Fire up, fire up.
The title of the show tonight, Let the Madness Continue. So, if you are pulling yourself away from March Madness right now, it's going on. Second weekend of March Madness. Let's talk about some of those matchups. First, let's tonight's slate right now. It's Clemson versus Arizona, Connecticut versus San Diego State, North Carolina versus Alabama, Iowa State versus Illinois. Any of you guys want to talk about any of those specific games or teams?
Well, Clemson versus Arizona, this is a very close matchup. Both teams play decent defense, but they're both better on offense. And the score shows it. Right now, Clemson's up 63-58. The money line is on Clemson, of course, for some reason. It's plus 145 for the 2-seed Arizona to win right now on the current money line with 8 minutes to go in the second half. And that may change at any second. All it takes is 1-3, and then that money line will change again.
That's true. I do know they were talking that this is one of the first times in a while that all the number ones and the number twos made it to the second weekend. There hasn't been an upset of any one of those so far. So Connecticut is kind of handling San Diego State, and I kind of figured that. Connecticut looks awfully strong, awfully good.
Connecticut's one of my favorites for this year, just because they are that solid team that plays good all-around fundamental basketball. They play old school basketball. They always have those 2, 3, and 4-year guys. They don't usually have a lot of one and dones. They're well coached. I love this team to go all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's funny about this Connecticut-San Diego State game is that they matched up in the finals last year and Connecticut won. So it's kind of a cool thing where San Diego kind of wants to get revenge for that loss and say, hey, let's bounce you early. Maybe we can go to the national title again and win it. But ultimately, I think UConn, as they're showing, is the better team. But I'm hoping, I'm kind of looking at these matchups. I'm hoping it's kind of UNC against Arizona because I want to see, I'm a UNC fan. I want to see RJ Davis against his old teammate, Caleb Love, who used to play for UNC. So it would be really cool to see a reunion of sorts.
I think it's interesting that Illinois is playing Iowa State. Those are two Midwestern teams too. That should be interesting. That's a 2-3 matchup. That should be a good game.
Yeah, which is crazy because normally you don't get a 2-3 matchup this early. You know, normally this is at the the Elite Eight is when you see 2-3 matchups. A 2-3 matchup in the Sweet 16, that's a little rare.
It is, and the crazy thing is, I've been telling people after Iowa State won their conference championship, after they killed Houston, I was like, look out for this team because, and then it's funny because the last time I remember Illinois being really, really good, and they've probably been good before this too, but was 2005. I remember just moved back to Charlotte for the second time. It was UNC against Illinois in the national championship, and Darren Williams played for University of Illinois, and that was in 2005.
So we got some people in the chat room. Thank you, Blake. It's good evening to you as well. And Felicity, keep it up, Jeremy. Good stuff. Well, those are tonight's matchups. Now, tomorrow night's matchups are the ones that, well, one of them I'm a little more interested in. Obviously, Marquette versus NC State. And it's a 2-11, and that's the lowest. North Carolina State's the lowest seed yet in there. But that one kind of still scares me. Marquette's playing good ball, but North Carolina State's not a easy game either.
they're
Where's
not
my hat? It
because
took the night off. I wanted to be a little smart Alec tonight there, Blake, but I decided to be clean and just go with the nice, freshly shaved head look.
I like it. I like that matchup because as Tar Heel fans, we're not supposed to like NC State, but you know what? They ended the regular season horribly. They had a bunch of losses, and then they go into the ACC tournament and they beat Duke in the semifinals, and then they beat Chapel Hill in the
Oh,
finals, and now they're taking that momentum and bringing it into March Madness, which can what's it called? Marquette's the second best team in the Big East after UConn, but I expect that to be a hard fought game.
I agree.
I think NC State's a little better defensively than offensively, and that's what's going to give Marquette a little bit of fits.
Yeah,
I think
And
for sure.
Candy, when will the merch come out? Blake asks.
I'm not sure. We're in negotiation. We're talking about it. So we'll let you know as soon as we know. We'll definitely let you know. Will, how is your bracket looking?
I have a lot of brackets. I have a lot of brackets because I'm in a bracket challenge with my friend and his family. I've done it for 8 years. I've won multiple times. They're doing okay. I have Purdue winning it all in one. I have UNC winning it all in one. I have UConn winning it all. So I wouldn't say great. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say a 6.
Okay.
That's fair. The last time I did a bracket was 2 years ago, and I was 75% right at the Elite Eight.
Wow.
Wow.
I only had 2 teams wrong, one on each half of the bracket. And you know what the funny thing is? Those 2 teams were the ones in the finals. It really irked me.
No. Oh, I hate when that happens. That
I have
hurts.
a feeling there's a lot of brackets that are still intact though, with all the 1 and 2s still in there at this point. I think a lot of brackets are still.
Yes, indeed.
Your bracket is still at 100%. That's amazing.
Wow. That's
If you're
amazing.
at 100%, you probably now were you not at 100% last at the end of it in the field of 32 and it got to 100% because you had the right teams getting past? Is
Or
that
was
how
he
that
doing
went, Blake?
Interesting.
Because I've seen that before where I seen a guy go 50% in the first round and then hit all 100% in the second round to be 100% right at the Sweet 16. And everybody's like, well, how does that happen? I said, well, from the start. That's amazing. So you're going for that perfect score to get the millions, aren't you, from Quicken Loans?
Blake, I need to get you on the show, and I need to calm your nerves and get you on the show. Since you're 100%, you need to come on one of these shows with us.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
That is. One of the matchups tomorrow that I'm kind of looking forward to is also Purdue Gonzaga. I think that could be a good game. And Creighton, Tennessee is another 2-3 matchup. And then, of course, there's Duke and Houston.
And Duke and Houston, that's another one where it's more evenly matched as well. The money line is plus 155 for Duke and minus 190 for Houston.
Duke's got a lot of good shooters on their team, especially Jeremy Roach, and their freshman McCain went off last game for 30-plus points. They have Kyle Filipowski as a big man who can drive the lane. Purdue Gonzaga, I think Zach Edey's just going to feed. Like, Mark Few's a great coach, and he probably has a big strategy against him. But you know what? Zach Edey is up for Player of the Year, and there's a reason for that. He's just killing it.
Grandizer 12. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you came in.
Scott is actually taking the night off. He needed a night off, so he decided he was gonna. He normally does pundit before this show, and there was a couple other people that couldn't make it tonight. For some people are religious. It is Holy Thursday if you're religious, or Maundy Thursday, whatever you might call it. So some couldn't make it, so they decided to cancel the show, and they reshared one of their shows previous. But you've got us on here, me, Jeremy,
Right.
and Will. We don't.
Well,
Are you not
This is-
entertained?
Scott's actually watching the Red Wing game. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Right now, that's what he's doing.
because
Sorry,
Red
I
Wings
have to
don't
play
win this
loud
game.
music.
Ugh.
Oh, they're down. Carolina scored 4-0. Woo! Ouch.
I'm sorry. Go Canes. Sorry,
Well,
Scott.
I can
Much love.
tell you the Red Wings come down to Florida. They're playing Saturday against the Panthers. So
Are you going?
we're gonna see. We're trying to get credentialed for it. So we'll just see.
I wonder what the scores are for the games now for March Madness. Now that Jeremy brought it up a few minutes ago.
Hitting the like to show support. Congrats, Jeremy, to getting over 400 subs.
It was a long journey, but you know what? I prefer the long, slow journey versus getting a whole bunch of the clickbait guys. I don't believe in sporting the rumors. I like shooting the rumors down with facts, and I'm right.
Yes, and I was on Jeremy. I think I was on that show.
You were in the chat on the 400. No, you were on the 400 show. Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Orlando. It's our
One
buddy.
more year before the Wings are contenders. Yzerman will get us there.
I kind of said that they would be outliers to the playoffs this year. They may or may not make it, and they were in there for a long time, but then they went and got in bed with Waste Management and put that stupid patch on there and went on a losing streak. I don't know what it is about anything to do with Waste Management, Green Bay Colors, that causes problems for teams. I don't get it.
I don't know either.
I don't like advertisements on jerseys. It's terrible.
Well,
Okay, so
unfortunately, that's going to continue. As more and more sponsors get into other sports, you're going to see more and more on jerseys.
mhm.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, the injury to Larkin happened right after they had the Priority 1 Waste Management patch put on the jersey. I blame the curse of sponsorship.
Yes.
That's
Indeed.
too funny. So right now, Clemson is up 66-61 with 4:06 left.
Wow.
So, and Connecticut is 55, San Diego State 39 with 11:49 left. So that game isn't as close.
No.
Right.
But there's other news today. Let's face it. Today was technically opening day for Major League Baseball. For all you baseball fans, the boys of summer are finally playing games that actually matter. I can tell you my team, Rain Out, their opening is scheduled for tomorrow. They're playing in the Mets Stadium. Obviously, this has been a topic on all their shows, is that why baseball starts so early, and then when they do, why they start in places that it's cold, it's wet, it's rainy. Now, had the Mets come to Milwaukee, you'd be guaranteed a game because they have the dome. So why are they starting in outdoor stadiums at this point is beyond me, but they are. So we can go over a couple. I mean, the Tigers, they're actually on top of the division.
Screwball had an amazing game. Baez scored the game-winning run. Javi Baez, Mr. I have the plate discipline of a blind man. Yeah, he better fix that damn bat. You're right. I have Arizona winning, but it may be the end of my bracket. They are actually within 3 right now. It's 66-63 right now with 2 minutes left. 2 minutes 30 seconds left. They still got a shot. And the line just changed to -250 on Clemson to +195 for Arizona. So it's anyone's game.
So the Cubbies are tied right now with the Rangers, 1-1, top of 6. We have a couple of games that haven't. One of the games that played this earlier today was the Baltimore Orioles with my former Brewer, Corbin Burns, pitching pitched 6 innings, 11 strikeouts. Orioles took it 11-3. crushed me.
I felt
Do you
bad
know
when I
do you
saw
know
that.
who
I felt
drove
bad.
Baez in?
Who?
You know who?
Former Brewer Mark Canha. Drove one to the gap way deep in center field, and Baez got the stroll in from second.
Good for them. Good for them.
So that's a double whammy for you.
That
Canha
is
gets
a
the
double.
game-winning RBI for the Tigers, and Burns does what he's doing right now. Ouch. Ouch. And he went in
Yeah.
the division. That's the bad part.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, just kind of like Council. Council jumped ship and went in the division too. He's, over at the
He's taking
Cubbies.
over a young Cubs team. Yeah.
Yeah, but he took your pitcher.
I know. Okay. So the other news in baseball happens to be this whole investigation with Ohtani. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred says he hopes the sports gambling investigation of Los Angeles Dodgers star Shohei Ohtani will be short, but he's not sure. And the problem is normally they can there's an ongoing investigation with the IRS right now and Shohei's interpreter and friend. And because of that, MLB has to do a separate investigation. And so they can't piggyback or so they have to do their own investigation. So this should be interesting. I don't know how long it'll take because of that. Shohei is saying he has no knowledge of him paying anybody else's debts or booking anything. I hope for his sake, and for the sake of the game, I hope that's the truth.
I agree, but the thing that makes his interpreter look bad is his resume is full of falsifications. His book, written on his own life, is full of falsifications. On his resume, he claimed that he was the interpreter for Daisuke Matsuzaka while he was with the Boston Red Sox. The Boston Red Sox has came out and said he has never worked for this team. He said he went to Harvard to learn how to speak, to get his English doctorate. Harvard says there's no record of this man here. So you have that type of lying going on, and then as soon as he's caught, well, he was helping me.
Yeah,
He's throwing his friend under the bus, and it's a sad thing because he's been friends with Ohtani for 15 years, and
it's
I
very
can't,
sad.
I cannot justify that type of backstabbing.
Mm-hmm. Imagine avoided $200 million contract. Yes,
It's
well,
avoided $600 million
It's the whole
contract.
situation. The whole situation's pretty sad. I agree with Jeremy. I couldn't stand. I can't stand backstabbers like that, and especially lying about, oh, I went to Harvard to do this. I went to the Red Sox and I did this, and then it comes out, oh, you didn't, and then you've known this guy who you're his aide. He's probably paying you a lot of money to be his interpreter. Um, and you have gambling issues and you lie to the IRS and a bunch of stuff. I hope the things about Ohtani and Ohtani didn't have to deal with it. Hopefully it's not true where he was involved too, because you know what? That would personally take away probably baseball's biggest star right now, and it would probably take a lot of viewership away from baseball.
Here's
mm-hmm.
the thing. If it's proven that all he bet on was Major League Soccer and Formula One sports, like it looks like in the initial investigation, Shohei Ohtani is clean anyways. Because according to Major League Baseball's gambling rules, he just cannot gamble on Major League Baseball. That's the only thing they have written in their rules. It has nothing to do with any other sports. So if it's proven that that's all that guy bet on, and he didn't use any inside information to bet on the major league at all, Shohei Ohtani will be cleared. And it should be a short investigation if that's what his debts are for. So that's the other thing. The JMO thing, I wrote articles about it, I did a deep dive into the surveys that was done with the players around the league. He kind of got the shaft because that rule was not really advertised prior to that year. And I still think if you're not betting on NFL football, you're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
Well, Manfred came out and said sports betting is going to go on in the United States, whether we have a relationship with any particular company, any gambling enterprise or not. I don't think it's unusual to have a set of rules that applies to fans and executives and private citizens out there on one hand, and players and people who have the ability to affect the outcome of the play on the field. There are all sorts of situations in which you have a privilege. In this case, the privilege to play in Major League Baseball. And that comes with a responsibility to refrain from engaging in certain types of behavior, in this case, gambling, that are legal for other people. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what we find out
In
as
the
we
next
go.
few days. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or weeks.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Well, Clemson is up 72-67 with 57 seconds left.
That game's getting close.
It is.
They're going back and forth real hard, but it looks like Clemson may pull it out because with less than a minute left with the 5-point, they need to depend on a real big swing, either a turnover, a big stop, or they foul on a 3-point shot. That is the only thing that'll really save Arizona right now.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, I'm going to have you comment because this leads right into your topic. Orlando just put up.
Yes and no. Number one, the hip drop rule, I believe it's mislabeled. When I go back and look at the types of tackling that it's talking about, the hip drop technique is how you're taught to catch up to a player and pull him down from behind. Because what you're doing is you're wrapping behind his midsection and you're dropping your weight with your hips to pull him backwards, which would pull him on top of you. It's actually the wrap and roll is the one that causes the injuries. That is where they either roll over the top of their head or they roll over their lower extremities. And they're more about rolling over the lower extremities because that's where you have the accidental ACLs, Achilles, calf strains, hip strains, all that stuff. So I just think they misnamed it and people are overreacting overall. If you actually look at the rule they're talking about, it's actually only may get called 10 to 20 times a season. There is no automatic ejection like there is for it in high school and college because the wrap and roll tackle has been illegal there for the last 10 years.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
So Jaden Bradley just made a 3-point jump shot. So it's 72-70 with 49 seconds left.
Dang.
Orlando says he feels better now. Thank you.
Well, you should. I just wanted to make sure I cleared that up.
Awesome.
The old bend and snap, too. No, this isn't Legally Blonde. Grandizer, you're great.
That is funny. Okay, let's see. We talked about NFL. We talked a little. What should we go to next, guys? Draymond Green. I know your favorite topic. Getting ejected again.
It's going to happen. He's an idiot. What else do you have to say? He is an aggressive moron. He's not an idiot. Let me get that wrong. He's an idiot savant. He's actually a very smart individual. He's a very savvy defender. He's very good at what he does. But the problem is he can't control his anger.
He's a hothead.
Mm-hmm.
It's the 19th career ejection and the first since returning from the suspension. He ended up missing 16 games over a month, which he sought out counseling following a string of on-court incidents. He also had received a separate 5-game suspension in November. I think what he really needs is a change of scenery. Like Jeremy and I were talking before this show. He needs a change of scenery. Steve Kerr agreed that he should have been kicked out and ejected. And I think at this point, and even Steph Curry, the same, but Steph is saying he needs them on the court. Well, you know what? I think the best thing for Draymond is a change of scenery.
I couldn't agree more. The guy's a good defender, but the temper is what's driving him to get ejected, and it's getting old real fast because like it seems like every other week we read an article: Draymond Green ejected, Draymond Green ejected.
I agree.
Orlando Escobar Jr., I can't agree more. Sheed, the same way. Either love him in your squad or hate him because he's the enemy. As a matter of fact, you want to know who could you probably benefit from Draymond Green on their team the most? And you could probably get him for a very cheap pick right now. The Detroit Pistons.
Bring him home.
Defensively, inside, they suck.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own nickname for the Pistons that I have put in the chat on many a shows that Candy's seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I will not say them here because I do not want to offend Scott or Candy or Will. But if Troy Weaver really wants to save his job and make Tom Gores look like a good owner, send them in a unprotected late first round pick because you will get one for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And a second round pick. And go ahead and get Draymond and throw any one of those role players on the bench to them. Draymond Green with Jaden Ivey and Beef Stew with Cade and Killian in the backcourt. Come on. That would be because when Cade and Killian's on the floor, they do have chemistry, even though they're both point guards. Right now, Killian's skill set is more towards shooting guard because he's not a great ball handler, whereas Cade does handle the ball better, and where he makes his mistakes is while he's passing, trying to do that no-look pass, and he's not really paying attention, and he's just a little off or something like that. That's what I see with Cade.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I'm sorry, Blake, your bracket has just been busted. Clemson upset Arizona 77-72. It is a final.
Wow.
Yes.
Kudos to Clemson.
Yep.
Yeah, they got a good player named PJ Hall, who I've been looking at. He's a stud.
Yes.
Gives an edge to a team. I agree. McCarty was that for the Wings. Yeah, I mean, March Madness indeed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona's been a well-coached squad. Kudos to them. They've made it to the Sweet 16. What now? I think it's 8 years in a row.
Yep. Sounds
Or
about
maybe
right.
only missed one in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
They last 8 years. So they're a well-coached team. They'll be back. And NIL is making it so you see less one and dones. You're seeing a more finished product here in basketball in the NCAA. And I think that's a good thing. The one and done was killing the sport.
It
Because
was.
unless you had 3 one and dones on your roster, you couldn't contend.
Right.
Exactly.
I will say, I don't know if, because I did not watch the Clemson Arizona game, but I can tell you that Arizona only shot 37% from the field, 17% from three-pointers, and 68% free throws. Those percentages, you're not going to win the game. So I don't know if Clemson's defense was that good that took away some of that and made those shots harder, or if Arizona just wasn't hot. And let's face it, part of March Madness is getting hot at the right time and staying hot.
Well, on an average, your winning team has over 70% on the free throws alone. It's 25% or better from three, and it's 40% or better from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That's it across the board. Those are your average numbers for any winning team, whether pro or college.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep. I agree. What other topics do you guys want to talk about tonight?
Well, we could. What do you think of the new kickoff rules? I want to know your thought on it because, with the NFL, the new kickoff rule If I understood it correctly, both teams will line up. You
Mm-hmm.
got the 11 guys for the kickoff team. The receiving team will have 9 up front and 2 back to receive between the 20 and the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's supposed to happen is the kickoff happens and no one runs past the kicker. The kicker's
Nope.
the only one moving at this point, and he stops after the ball has left his foot.
Yep.
And until somebody touches it out of the 2 receivers,
Or it
no
hits the
one,
field.
or it hits the field, no one is to move.
Correct.
So, and the way I heard it is if it goes out before the 20-yard line out of bounds, it comes out to the 40 as usual. If it goes out of bounds in that other area, it's at the 35
Mm-hmm.
in between the 20 and the goal line. And if it rolls through the end zone, it only comes out to the 25 now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it lands in the end zone, it still comes out. If it lands through in the end zone and isn't touched, it comes out at the 35 again, correct?
I believe so.
So the landing zone is supposed to be between the 20 and the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. This is going to bring the kick return back. And what I'm going to say it is what's going to happen is your average ball placement for a team that returns kicks with a good returner is going to be between the 37 and 50 every possession.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I heard
Because
you say that last
the
night.
one team's going to be lined up where they kick off from the 35. The other one's going to be lined up on the 40. These are exactly from the XFL. If you go watch the XFL last year, it is their kickoff rules, and it actually has helped them actually have kick returns. And that's what they're
Right.
doing is they're bringing the kick return back, and they're making it exciting yet more safe than it used to be. That's the biggest thing. By having your 9 players stand there until the ball is there, the days of shutouts are over. Yeah, because unless it's a dominating defense that shuts the run game down and can stifle a pass at the same time, you're
I
not
love
going to
it.
see a shutout. I
too.
love it. I love the kick return. I'm glad we're finally going to see the next Devin Hester out there.
I'm tired of this. Oh, I'm going to wave her a fair catch and just catch it.
That's
You can't
exactly
do
what
it.
it took away. This is why I love it. It took away the fair catch rule.
Yep.
The fair catch rule is gone. It's non-existent. Because if you let it roll, and let's say it just touches the edge of your foot as it rolls by,
it brings back
Anybody's ball.
importance to the person that's catching that ball too, though. So
Yes.
now you're going to find it, whereas sometimes they were putting people out there, let's say, weren't as, how should I say, experienced maybe at some points, because, just go out there and do the fair catch and catch it if it's out between certain yard lines. Whereas now you can't do that. So now you're going to pay somebody to make this play, and you can have some really good field position if you've got good speed and good hands.
right? It has to be a combination of both. You can't
Yes.
have great hands and no speed because that's not going to help you.
Right.
I'm just saying, you're not going to put a 280-pound 4.7 running tight end back there.
No.
Oh man.
Even
No.
though that guy would be hard to tackle, you're still not putting him back there.
Yeah.
But what you will see is when you have a struggling super fast wide receiver like the one that's coming out in the draft this year, like if he struggles, Xavier Worthy, he will go to the return team 100%. Khalif Raymond has already been a Pro Bowl and All Pro returner for Detroit. He will be on one side of the field. And if JMO struggles, JMO will be right beside him because that's what he did the best at Alabama. And Dave Phipp was the one who turned the scouting staff at Detroit onto him because he was 1 for 5. And everybody says, "What do you mean 1 for 5?" For every 5 touches, he had a touchdown in the kick return game for Alabama that year.
Yeah, the guy's explosive.
He needs to. Yes, Rod Smart.
That would be awesome. Just a week, like NBA didn't nickname jerseys. Let's have a week of NFL ones. That'd be fun.
That would be fun. That would be fun. I agree. I think it's cool that we're gonna move some of the NFL, adopt some of the rules from the XFL, because I think that was a more scoring league, and I thought it was fun, and I think there are a lot of people out there that like that like
Mhm.
more offense.
Yeah, but you know what? When the defenses were really good in the XFL, guess what? Those were championship teams.
Mm-hmm.
All of them made the playoffs, the ones that played good defense. Do I see drafting Worthy at 29? No, that's not what I said. I still like, if you want a guy that has the hands, the speed, even though he's not that good at getting separation, he's great at contested catches and breaking tackles. I like the other guy from Texas better. It's Adonai Mitchell. If you're
Yeah,
going
I
to
do
take one
too.
at 29, that's who I'd grab.
Yep, I agree.
So going back to March Madness, Connecticut is really taking it to San Diego State now. They are up 71 or 73-45 with 4
Well,
minutes and 30 seconds left.
Oh my
they
God.
should have been, and if you were smart, you'd have bet the them to win by the points margin at 15.5, because that was way better odds than taking them on the money line, because taking UConn on the money line in this game was negative 10,000.
Yep.
Wow.
But at the
Wow.
same time, the other team only had a plus 145 chance to win.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I did want to now that we're talking back to March Madness, I did want to touch on the fact that Michigan went in and hired Dusty May away from FAU. FAU is paying Dusty. There's a lot of people down here that were upset with Dusty May because he had just signed a new contract a year ago. But come on, let's face it, people. FAU, small gym, good hearts, don't get me wrong, but we're paying him $1 million. Michigan offers him $3.75 million. Who's going to turn that down?
Right, and
Who?
that's before his incentives. That's his
Correct.
base salary. It's just like everybody says that nobody's going to be able to take that guy out of Tennessee as head coach, as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. His
Mm-hmm.
base salary is $275,000. He makes $9 million if they win a national championship as the football team. So it's apples to oranges, is what you guys are talking about. If he gets offered $3 million to be an NFL offensive coordinator, I'm quite sure he's telling Tennessee to kick rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Money
But
talks.
I am excited because FAU now has hired head coach John Jackas, and he was at Baylor for 7 seasons, including the team's national championship season in 2021, and he spent time at Gonzaga as director of operations under Mark Few. So he's got a good pedigree, and they're going to officially announce him tomorrow at a press conference. So Scott and I are going to be headed over there tomorrow to cover the press conference.
Nice.
So that'll be cool. Yes. I'm excited to hear him and hear his take about FAU and how he feels with the change and stuff like that.
About Dusty May coming to Michigan too, I also
Mhm.
want to address the fact that he was penciled in to either be at Oregon or at Louisville. That was the two shoe-ins for him to have a job, because he was a staffer with Oregon at one time before he got into coaching, and then Louisville wanted him, and I think his wife or her family or whatever was alumnus of Louisville, and he chose Michigan. So, and I don't think it was just because of the money. I think it's because of the lure of the school historically. And I'm talking about in sports in general, they have a level of excellence that's expected in Michigan. And he wants to be a part of that. And plus, Michigan is starting to embrace the NIL. And I'm not talking about the school, I'm talking about the state. So that's going to make it easier for him to get transfers in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yes, Coach Beeline had a hand in that as well. But Grandizer asks a great question that I'd like to address. He goes, so far, the NFL rule changes that have happened this offseason, which rules do you like the most? Which do you like the least? And which areas should be addressed? Well, it's not just the kickoff rule that they adopted from the XFL, because now there is a sky judge for intentional grounding and late hits on the quarterback that can review any of those at any time. So basically, there's going to be a TV timeout anytime that penalty's called, because it's going to be a 30-second review, frame by frame, right away. And if there's anything called wrong, it's to be reversed immediately. And I think it's about time. And it's just a stepping stone to it being just like the XFL and having the sky judge review every penalty to make sure it's called correctly.
I agree. I like that.
And the other rule that I like is exactly this one: the extra review if you win one. Bringing it back where you only got to win one of your challenges to get a third challenge. I think it's a great idea, but you have to use that challenge before the first half or you don't have that choice. So win or lose, if you think there's even a 50-50 chance you're going to win the challenge and it's getting close to the end of the first half, you might as well throw the flag, because if you win, you get an extra one. If you don't, you lost a timeout. And at the half, it's not as bad as it is at the end of the second half, because you're still in the game at that point.
I agree, Jeremy.
In Orlando, I would say you are correct. Beeline did have an influence from what I've read too. I also know that May said he thought Michigan was the best fit for him and his family. He thought he had the highest chance of success and the best support because of all of the fans and all the support that they have there at Michigan, because it has, yes, it hasn't been as elite lately, but it was not too long ago. Exactly. So, he plans to use both recruiting and the transfer portal, which he jokingly compared to speed dating, which I thought was an interesting take, but it's true. Like,
it is.
Part of their challenge is this transfer portal, and it is for all of the sports, not just basketball.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
And here we go. And that has to deal with a lot of what Mike Tomlin said about 2 weeks ago on a podcast where it was a coach's podcast. And he goes, do you want to know what I'm sick of hearing about in college and in pros? Is coaches saying that they cannot coach a guy because the player isn't good enough because they didn't fit their system. That's a coaching problem. Your job as a coach is to teach your player how to fit in your system. If you can't do it, you're not a good coach.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm. There's a difference. There's a difference between somebody who's been there 3 years and doesn't fit, because that means they're either A, not coachable, or B, don't have the talent to be coached, than somebody who's been there a year and they move on. Josh Rosen.
The chosen Rosen.
I'm just saying, he's been the redheaded stepchild of the NFL. He has bounced from bad franchise to bad franchise.
He's still a free agent, isn't he?
And he will be, because he hasn't gone to a well-coached team yet. And I think that's his biggest problem. Everybody says, oh, look, Ron Rivera picked him up. He didn't have a good quarterback coach then. He needed to go to a place with a good coaching staff to help tame that ego. Mm-hmm. Where he needed to go at that time, he'd have been much better as a backup for the Patriots.
Yeah.
While Belichick was there. My bracket is gone because he had Arizona winning it all. It was a great run there, buddy.
Sorry, Blake.
To go through the field at 32 and be 100% right till now, that's an amazing feat for anybody. But the fact that you had Arizona winning it all, my favorite to win it all still, I'm going to say it again, it's UConn.
Oh, yeah.
So Blake, I would ask, who did you have Arizona going and playing in the final? So is your other teams still in there? I know your bracket's gone, but I'd be interested to see, because obviously he doesn't have UConn, because aren't they in the same, or are they not?
I can't remember.
So Blake, if you're still out there, let us know who you had playing Arizona in the. So what other topics, anybody besides, we still have my town yet to go, but is there anything else on your top of your mind that you're interested, want to talk about in the sports, realm of sports?
I got none, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's okay. Well, I'm gonna do a station identification break right now. So if you're listening to us on audio version, it can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. If you see the red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed to our channel, and I'm still trying to figure out why you haven't yet. Please do so. Hit that red subscribe button. Share us, like us, tell everybody about it. If you like baseball, we talk baseball Monday nights. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Yes, Jeremy, that was cute. Tuesday nights, football. Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights, Motor City Mad Mal Show, where Scott interviews typically one person. You never know who it would be. Yes, Scott wrote that book. He interviewed this past week Jeff DeForest, who has been a broadcaster down here in South Florida for years, and they talked about the different teams down here, how media has changed, how everything has changed. I will admit it was a long interview, but it was a good interview. So go hit the play button, watch part of it, grab some popcorn, play the rest of it. Thursday nights is normally Pundit's Pundit, and it's always Fire Up, where you always will find Jeremy and myself. Sometimes Will graces us with his presence. Then there is a book that Scott, my husband, wrote. It is called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, or Barnes & Noble. Okay, so that was station identification. Oh, George Eichhorn wrote the foreword in Scott's book, and George has his own book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, available on Amazon as well. So Blake answered our question. He had Gonzaga.
Oh.
So that will be interesting.
To answer Grandizer's question about Josh Rosen, he was actually on their practice squad. He never made it into the quarterback room.
I didn't know.
Does Tyson ruin his legacy? Ooh, Tyson versus Paul. Does Tyson ruin his legacy if he takes a fall for money? I don't believe a second those fights aren't rigged. It really depends on how it goes down. If it's a long-lasting fight, which is something Tyson has always struggled with, his stamina is not good past 8 rounds. That's why he struggled with Evander Holyfield, and he struggled with the other guy he actually went that long with. It doesn't bode well for Tyson. If he's able to get to Logan Paul or whichever one, Jake Paul early, I expect a knockout by the 3rd round, because Tyson will wreck him and possibly retire him, make him look like the Crypt Keeper by the time he's done.
You're not wrong. I'm hoping Tyson wins.
I'm confident he should.
When is that? I forget. I'm trying to think.
Is it this weekend? Or is it next week? It's next month, isn't it? Just
sounds right.
I don't know.
Not sure. Okay, it's time for my town. Let's do it. Mr. Will, tell us what's happening in your town that you're excited about.
Ooh,
or that you want to share.
Quite a few things. So in my town, we just received word that LaMelo Ball, the Hornets are out of contention. They're a struggling team. They get a win here or there. LaMelo Ball has been out for the last 20 games with an injury, and we're going to sit him out for the rest of the year, which is good because he's had injury history the last few years. Speaking of the Hornets, they beat the Cavaliers, who are a really good team. They beat them last night, and our rookie Brandon Ingram scored 31 points. The other thing is, if I'm not wrong, there's 3 North Carolina schools still in the men's March Madness: Duke, Carolina, and NC State. So that's what's happening in my area.
Isn't Clemson down that way?
Clemson's in South Carolina,
Okay. Very good.
but close.
I knew it was
Okay.
Carolinas. That's all I knew.
No, you're close.
North, south, you know.
It's the
East,
same. It's
west,
just like
maybe.
Dakotas. You don't know. You can't tell the difference between north and south unless you see the sign.
Yeah, for real. You're not wrong.
That's funny. Okay, Mr. Jeremy, what is happening in your town?
I watched a show from a podcaster posted about the Lions today. I'm not going to name the channel. I'm not going to name the podcaster. But he had the proper title, but the wrong message. He says, the Lions have returned Nate Sudfeld. Sorry, I almost called him by his nickname. And while the guy has never been better than a QB3 on any roster anywhere, he actually was so bold to say that this is a move directly to put Hendon Hooker back as the QB3 of this team. And I was like, what? A guy who's only thrown 69 passes in the NFL as a starter and has a 48% completion percentage and more touchdowns or more interceptions than touchdowns is going to be the QB2 on this roster? And this is the same guy when he was on the roster 2 years ago that said the only thing Nate Sudfeld was good for was holding the Surface tablet at the proper angle to not glare into Goff's eyes as he's on the sideline. And I think that's his job as QB3 this time. He will either be on the practice squad or cut, is my opinion, because the guy, God love him, he's a professional athlete, but he's not good.
He's a 2-tablet holder. He'll hold both tablets.
That's funny. That's funny. Orlando says, sounds like a greenie take.
No, it's not a professional guy. He thinks he's a professional guy.
And Keegan, I respectfully disagree. You can pull for them whoever you want, but I respectfully will root for Marquette. Sorry. And they play each other, so. But my town, my turn. So I have some comments here. So while addressing reporters at the NFL annual meeting on Tuesday, Packers president, CEO Mark Murphy expressed disappointment in the city of Green Bay's decision to walk away from negotiations on a new lease agreement for Lambeau Field. Granted, there are 9 years left on their current lease, but the two sides have been negotiating on an extension for the past year. That was up until a couple of weeks ago, when Green Bay Mayor Eric Genrich called Murphy to inform him that they would be ceasing negotiations for the time being. Really? Quite honestly, not only disappointed, but also very surprised. We're a community-owned team. We're going to give back. We want to work things out, and we've shown we're not asking for any public money. We've invested a lot of money into the stadium and into the community with Titletown. We've told the city we'll continue to invest in the future. The organization has already spent more than $1 billion in capital improvements, operations and maintenance, Titletown development, and charitable support since the redevelopment back in 2003. And they've committed to investing $1.5 billion into the stadium in the coming decades. That's in addition to providing a $400 million annual economic impact to the community. The Packers also maintain a corporate reserve fund of more than $500 million, though the money is set aside for the financial long-term stability of the NFL's smallest franchise. Reiterating the Packers will always stay in Green Bay, Murphy said he's still optimistic that the organization and city of Green Bay will get something worked out. But for the time being, the Packers have now halted off-season plans for an $80 million construction project due to this uncertainty. Given the status of the negotiations, we're going to halt those investments. That's going to affect our fans, and it's also going to affect us for the draft in 2025. So hopefully they can come together and negotiate an extension. So my question would be to this mayor of Green Bay, why? Why halt? I don't honestly understand why you would halt negotiations. This team brings you in so much revenue. I don't understand it. Orlando Packers moving to Milwaukee now. Go ahead, Will.
I don't understand either. It's owned by the people. The people love their team. They show out in full force in Lambeau. And Lambeau is historic like crazy. I hate when they destroy old stadiums. It is one of my biggest nerves. Yes, structures fall and they get old, but it's called rebuilding. Like, for example, Yankee Stadium, Old Bush Stadium. There's so many stadiums that shouldn't have been torn down that have been torn down. Whenever I think of football, even though I'm a Panther fan, I think of Lambeau Field because, God, I bet Vince Lombardi, God rest his soul, in his grave is just screaming, saying, get this negotiation done because this is Green Bay Packers are football, and their football field is historic.
And they bring so much revenue to the town, and it's not just during the season. Their Hall of Fame is right there. Their Packer Pro Shop, Titletown. Yeah, we won't say that response, but I like Keegan's response here. Oof, as a Lions fan, that's hard to hear for the Packers. Even though we are rivals, it's still hard to hear about a mayor pulling the plug on an NFL team. And he hasn't pulled the plug. He just stopped the negotiations. I mean, yes, Jeremy, go ahead.
9 times out of 10, when a mayor pulls the plug on a negotiations with an NFL stadium, regardless of how much money or whatever it is, it's because they're not giving the city enough personal licenses for him to feel comfortable, because they do a lot of business. They do a lot of transactions with other businesses that come into town. Nostalgia isn't enough leverage. He's gambling with, he goes, hey, I want 20% of the seats for personal seat licenses, whether it's sideline, ed zone, skybox, whatever. He wants that 20%. And that's so he can give them out to say, oh, Amazon's thinking about building a hub here. So I want to be able to have all the execs of this future hub right here in the skybox with me. It's that type of stuff. That's the background stuff that nobody understands in football that happens all the time. So this is a negotiations tactic, and it may backfire, because if Milwaukee says, hey, I've got 80 million to build your stadium right now. Sorry.
Yeah, I
That'd
don't know.
be a weird name, the Milwaukee Packers.
They'll change the mascot. They got to. Because look at the intimidation factor just in the NFC North. You got Vikings, Marauders that raided lands. You got Lions, King of the Jungle. You got Bears, King of North America, really. Grizzlies, Kodiaks, Polar Bears, they're all over North America. And then you got a guy with the box cutter.
Oh, I'm sorry, Candy, but that was hilarious.
No,
I carry a box cutter at work.
I would change the name and make it an alliteration. I'm just saying, you got go to Milwaukee. They could do something with Wisconsin. They could do Milwaukee Maulers or something like that. Something that sounds intimidating. They would totally rebrand it.
Right.
What's the state animal?
Milwaukee
Moose.
I think Wisconsin and Michigan share a state animal. As a matter of fact, I think it is it's the badger.
It's the badger. Matt, but the Badgers are the Wisconsin Badgers, so it's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Cheeseheads is good. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Whilst not the same roots like Yeah, the
Well,
Phoenix
the,
Cardinals to the change.
Yeah.
I think it would stay the Packers actually, but it would be a good chance if they move. If they wanted a different name for the franchise, that would be the time to do it. That's all I'm getting at.
That's true. And I don't know that they would move to Milwaukee. I mean, it's not like Milwaukee could support them. Don't get me wrong. They support the Bucks. They support, they drive. Let's face it. Green Bay actually used to have a game in Milwaukee. A couple of games. They used to have, I think it was 4 games. I think 1 preseason and 2 or 3. And now it's called the Gold Package. So there is actually 2 sets of season ticket holders for the Packers right now, and one is called the Milwaukee or Gold Package, and that they get 1 game during the preseason, and I think it's either 2 or 3 home games, and then the other season is the other ticket package is the full package. And there are people that are on both waiting lists, and we've been told that the gold list is a lot shorter than the full season package is. And they have said people were on the list for 17 years, and now all of a sudden some of the gold package people, if they want, they can take the gold package. But it'll be interesting because let's face it, Lambeau Field is iconic, and it's we all play for the Vince Lombardi trophy. So to move it, I don't think it'll come down to that. I think, honestly, I think they'll throw the mayor out or kick him out before they gets to that point. I mean, there is 9 years left on this lease, but
Right. And it wouldn't happen for 9 years because of the lease, because breaking that lease would almost break the shareholders union, if
right,
you think about it. Because that fee would probably be about 40% of the shareholders, which means all your big shareholders would lose such a big stake.
exactly. Well, guys, anything else? Anybody else want us to talk about? Anybody that's in the chat room? Any other comments or any other topics?
You know, it's funny, with less people, we've actually gone longer than we have because of all the comments and the great
Yeah.
questions. And we've actually all had really good answers and responses to everything. But as
I
far
agree.
as so I want your guys' opinion on my hometown take that I did tonight, because we didn't get it. Do you agree with me, Candy?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
about the whole Nate Sudfeld thing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, obviously. I agree. Nate Sudfeld, we know who he is. He's a clipboard holder. Yes, he's a professional athlete. That's what he is, first off. But guy, come on. There's a reason Brad Holmes drafted Hendon Hooker, and you've said 100 times, and I couldn't agree more. This guy Hooker, they're gonna let Goff play out, and he's probably gonna be gone next year. This guy Hooker is lined up to be the next quarterback of the Detroit Lions. Point and center.
I didn't realize how much Wisconsin copied Michigan, because they did join the union after Michigan. The state animal, American badger. The state bird, American robin. Guess what it is in Michigan? The badger and the American robin.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to be the Detroit Lions.
Ooh, Keegan Eckert asked one more thing. How about draft smoke screens and draft news? Well, the biggest news to me, and I don't think it's a smokescreen, because he could actually fall because of it, even though he is the best wide receiver, full tool set in his bag. Marvin Harrison Jr. did not do any of the drills at the combine, nor did he do any of the drills at his pro day.
That's really, really weird.
That's a sign that he might be hiding a small, lingering soft tissue injury that could go longer than a lot of people expect, and he may not be the top wide receiver taken off the board. You could see somebody like Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., or Romeo Odunes go first.
Yeah, that is interesting. That does bring up very suspicions.
And Nabers looked like a stud at his stud too at his pro day. All those guys look like studs at their pro day. Okay, last question. Any draft prospect that the Lions have interviewed this week They did bring Quantez Stiggers back in. They also had an interview with Kool-Aid, and they had an interview with Verse, and they got one lined up with Chop Robinson. And I just think it's doing due diligence to see who's worth it at the top or the back end of the draft in that first round. Because let's face it, right now, if they take their players where they're at, it only costs them $8.6 million to sign all 7 of them. So it goes less if they trade back and get more second and fourth and fifth round picks. And I still think that is probably the smarter move. It only reduces it by $1 million, but if you can get 8 rookies for $7 million versus 7 for 8, simple math sounds good to me. And we all know first round talent, some of the second round talent moves up to the back end of the first round due to needs and what people like for culture fit. And some of them slide back to the first round for the same reason. Their second round for the same reason out of the first round. Right now, I heard out of the 32 picks, there are 27 kids with the first round draft label on them.
Wow.
That's the most we've had in a long time, guys.
Gotta be. Yeah.
So we have a lot of people here still in the chat room.
Wow.
That's the one I answered.
You just did, yep. The show that he might fall off, and Jim Harbaugh gets his receivers. In-state colleges don't count as interviews, right?
That's right. In-state colleges do not count as towards the 30 interviews, and you also don't even have to go to their pro day. You can bring them in individually, one at a time, and work them out with your team if you want.
And then in case I miss your outro, thanks for the stream, taking questions and your insights. Have a great night and week. Stay safe.
Have a good night, sir.
Can be
We appreciate it, Grandizer.
Yes, we appreciate you coming in.
Grandizer
a great
12.
chat room.
Great.
Grandizer 12 is one of my very first subscribers. He followed me from where I was at with We Are Lions Nation over to my channel. And he hasn't been as active as he has been of late, but he always gets active in the off season.
I love
it. Nice. I love all the people that, had comments tonight and stuff like that. So with that, any other last minute news?
I want to say thank you to my newest subscriber, Orlando Escribano Jr., as Antonio Banderas would say it.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you say it so perfectly.
That's funny. That is funny. So let's see, any last minute updates. Did we go final in that? The North Carolina game started. Yes, Connecticut ended 82, San Diego State 52. So a 30-point loss. Oof.
Wait, the UNC game started? Dang.
It did start, yes. It's 12-7. So
okay, I've got
North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So let's go around the room. Everybody tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, how they can subscribe or find you and your channels. Will, let's start with you first.
Again, thank you guys for having me. Love being on the show. Love talking to you and Jeremy, and when Ralph's here and when George is here. Love talking sports with you guys. So Wednesday nights, you can find me on that. Everything's reversed. I forget that guy's channel, Smoking Jeremy B. His channel on Wednesday and Fridays. Wednesday, it's NFL Roundtable, whether it's NFL news and other topics. And then we do mock drafts because it's mock season, guys. We're doing mock drafts every night. Go check us out. I love being on Jeremy's show. I've been on it for almost a year now. I think it's been a year and a few months. And it's so much fun. Him and Leonard have a great morning show as well. So tune into that 8 times a week and the night show on Wednesday too. I'm on that one, not on the morning show. Fridays is Detroit Lions Fan Cave, where it's more Detroit Lions based, and we still do a mock draft here or there. And then I'm here on Thursdays. I'm also on the Sip Off hosted by Megan Price. And definitely check out this channel, subscribe to this channel, and sub to Jeremy's, because the shows on this channel are amazing. You'll see me in the comments if I'm not on the show. And then you'll see me on Jeremy's show during those weeks. And if I'm not on his shows, I'll be on the comments for that one too.
Awesome. And then my infamous or famous co-host, Mr. Smokin' Jeremy B. How can we find you?
You can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune channel on Tuesday nights on Inside the Pigskin with characters such as Coach John Bono, former special teams coach for 9 different NFL teams and head coach of the old Central Michigan Chippewas. You could also find us with the son of Mel Farr Jr., the running back of the program. You can also find Bo Crouch of Football Talk with Bo, and of course, the Motor City Mad Mouth himself, Scott Morganroth. Then on Thursdays, it's Fire Up. I'm here. And if he needs me anywhere else, I join in because guess what? I'm a team player. That's what I do. Then you can find my channel, which is actually 2 YouTube channels now. One is mine, one is Russell Wayne's, but I'm on both of them. It is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions or Football Talk 365. Subscribe to both. It helps us both. I love making everybody grow. This podcasting community is how I got here. I came on Scott's Inside the Pigskin, and they happened to mention Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. And I put Matt Patricia and Boob Quinn in the comments, and the next thing you know, I'm writing for them.
Yep. Pretty much.
And that's literally how I got the job, was my comments. And I had actually good comments. They were talking about how bad it was. I said, well, that's because they couldn't develop a player any more than they could Polaroid film.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how this whole thing got started. And I'm sure I haven't got the text yet, so I don't think we've heard anything from the NFL if they accepted our press application.
Don't know yet.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Please accept it, please.
But you can find my writings on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, and that is my full name. I use it completely because that's what I should as a journalist. You should not have to use a pen name if you're writing a column. If you have to use a pen name, you're being too offensive.
Sorry.
Yep.
Just saying. Carlos Monarez. But anyways.
Will Vogel.
Yes.
No, Will Vogel's a real name. It's BCP that's not.
Yeah. Maybe it is. Ooh.
We'll tell Candy what that is when we go off air, because that's funny.
Oh, is that it? Is that all?
That's it. That's all I got.
That's it. That's all he's got. But seriously, you've got to go see his writing, www.southfloridatribune.com. You'll find his writing. You'll find Scott, George. You'll find press releases from the Miami Dolphins, Detroit Lions, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. We get press releases from FAU. Hit the red subscribe button. Look at all of our shows. But the other thing we have is Scott went to Pro Day for the Miami Hurricanes. So he actually got to interview Xavier Restrepo. And I know it's gotten over 2,000 hits already. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Great little short interview. But he's going to be a wide receiver in the NFL next year. Not this year, but the following year. So go check that out. Go check out our website. Go check out our YouTube channel. Go check out all of the YouTube channels from all of our contributors. You know, not Jeremy. Obviously, Will doesn't have one, but Will supports both of us.
Yes,
Will, do you have your own?
Yes.
You have your own?
Sports card space, though. But
there we go.
I'll tell you at some time.
Okay. But you can find me typically on this channel. Tuesday nights, I do jump off the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel and jump on to 3 Chicks in a Pod or Chicks and Salsa, where it's just us chicks talking sports. Tuesday nights, normally 7:30 till 8. Sometimes we start a little bit earlier, but you can find us talking sports. I talk it with the Queen of Hoops. I talk it with Chiefs Chicks and a Carolina Panthers girl. So it's a great cast. Love my girls. But you can
as I call them, my glops, gorgeous ladies of podcasting.
There we go. There we go. Yes. Monday nights again here baseball. Tuesday nights, football. Wednesday nights, Scott interviews somebody, and then they do a sports exchange where you can be talking about who knows what, all kinds of different sports, from hockey to basketball to baseball to cornhole. Thursday nights, my town here on Fire Up and normally Pundits Pundit. But you also can go buy Scott's book. He wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone. It is available on Kindle, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble. It talks about how media has changed over the course of his career, over 40 years. And Jeremy, don't open to the page, but there is a page that has a picture of a young Scott Morganroth with a young Muhammad Ali.
I almost broke my glasses looking at it. No, just kidding.
You gotta buy the book to see the picture.
Jeremy, you gotta show me after the show.
But anyways, we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I want to thank Will for coming on. I know he was last minute. He couldn't make it. And then all of a sudden, last minute, plans change. We all know life changes, but lucky for us, he could join us on this broadcast. And of course, I always have to thank my wonderful co-host, Mr. Smokin' Jeremy B. Thank you. But
I appreciate it, Candy.
Of course, thank all of the people that were in the chat room tonight, because without you, we would not have had as long of a show or as good of a show. We love every one of you. We thank you for your contribution, your questions. Keep coming back. Come back. And if there's ever topics that you want us to talk about, ask the questions. Email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Jeremy, you want to close it out?
And of course, just like I say on my show, try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts within you right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, everybody.